Wait, please.
Secondly,
salawat and salutation
for the
for the greatest Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who had brought us from the darkness to the lightness such nowadays.
Well, ladies,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dina Mariani, acting as Master of Ceremony.
Would like to say welcome to the first annual International Conference on Religious Moderation, State Islamic University of Mataram. Ladies and gentlemen, opening ceremony of the first annual International Conference on Religious Moderations 2024 by the theme Religious Moderations and Freedom of Belief in the Digital Age. Thursday, 28th of November 2024. By the agenda as follows. The first agenda is opening. Ladies and gentlemen, let's open this assembly by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And the second agenda is singing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. For all audience, please stand up. For all audience, have a seat please. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the third agenda is reading the Holy Quran. Will be read by Nur Hasanah. The time is provided.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. أرأيت أمثالها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم صدق الله العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Banyak deg-degan. Biasa konser tapi tak pernah. This gathering, guys, value colleges and esteemed friends, I extend my heartfelt welcome to each and everyone. Allow me to personally greet our honored guest, to Director of Uin Mataram. Thank you for your leadership and make applause. For all of you present here, your presence shows strong commitment and support for our program. Remember, Coach of RMB Uin Mataram, Prof. Suprapto, here. Moderator, Pak Aisyah. Ini harus campur karena kita deg-degan. Praise to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty God, for His blessing and grace. that we can come together in this religious conference. As the head of RMB Uin Mataram, I am proud and grateful for holding this activity, which is a forum to strengthen our commitment to building harmony in the national diversity. Ladies and gentlemen, religious moderation is the key to preserving diversity as a blessing, not a threat. This is not just about ideas, but about concrete action that promote tolerance, justice, and equality. I am sure that through this conference, we will be able to generate strategic ideas and innovative solutions to address the challenges of diversity in the digital age. Various changes at the local and national level show the problematic situation of religious. Those belonging to religious minorities face difficulties in worship, and some of them still live in refugees camp until now for 20 decades. Ahmadiyah. Therefore, it is relevant for the committee to raise the issue of religious moderation and freedom of belief in the digital age. We are gathered here today with a powerful purpose to explore how we can build a world where different religious beliefs are not a source of conflict, but a bridge of understanding. This activity will be carried out in two activities, like a general conference, a final session, and at Da'wah faculty, yes, and parallel session at three faculties after this opening ceremony, in Faculty of Sharia, Faculty of PEB. Finally, I would like to thank for the support of various parties, especially to the army of RMB Uin Mataram. RMB Uin Mataram, who have maintained their enthusiasm and various time constraint due to busy Tridharma, and I represent the committee, apologize for the shortcoming in the preparation of this event. Happy discussion and cooperation. May this conference bring great benefit to all of us and be a step forward maintaining harmony and strengthening national unity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kalau yang ini terakhir ini salam moderasi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa bihi nasta'inu ala umuri dunya waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli, amma ba'du. The honorable house of the head of house moderation, ya, religious moderation. Putnya Mr. Profesor Suprapto, Coach Sintoyong katanya sih, our our professor, yeah, the other speaker today, the head of House of Religious Moderation, Mr. Apipuddin, the distinguished speaker, Mr. Professor Dr. Rahimin Apandi from Malaysia, will absent or online, and Ashraf Al-Ustaz, yeah, Mr. Ashraf Idrisi from University of Debrecen, Hungary. But is from Maroko, ya, Maroko. Ahlan wa sahlan, ya. Di Indonesia, di Jamiati Mataram, Islamiyah Mataram, ya Maroko, makanya kelihatan ganteng, ya. Beda tipis dengan Pak Prof Suprapto. Dan Muhammad Imran Khan from University of Cambridge online. Ladies and gentlemen, all the caller and participant, line or line. The first, let's thank Allah has given us the time, good time, that we can conduct the first international conference on religious moderation on the title Religious Moderation and Freedom of Belief in the Digital Era. Salawat and salam to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who guided us from the darkness to the lightness. Allow me to deliver my speech in bahasa. Tentunya I would like to express my warm gratitude all the speaker who have traveling from far, yeah, from the close and the far, because the close from Indonesia, from Triple IU, and the far from Morocco, and the first time came to the Lombok, ya. Pamal habu illa lil habibil awal. Jadi yang pertama itu yang berkesan, ya. Karena beliau bisa bahasa Arab dan bisa bahasa Indonesia, ya. Bahasa, you can speak bahasa little, ya. No. Makan. Oh, after seminar we can take a makan. Dikulli makan. Jangan sampai tidak ada makannya Pak Apip itu. Ini beliau musafir jadi nggak puasa hari Kamis, kan. Kalau Pak Prof Suprapto kayaknya puasa. Begitu juga moderator, ya, Mbak Aisyah dan teman-teman sekalian. Jadi tentunya kita sangat berbahagia, ya, ada tema seminar ini sangat penting, ya, sangat bagus, ya, dalam rangka terus menjaga keharmonisan. Karena tugas dari Rumah Moderasi itu menjaga bukan hanya sakinah, mawaddah, warahmah di internal, di domestik, tapi juga di publik. Sakinah, mawaddah, warahmah, wan nikmah di Indonesia ini, ya. Jadi, itu tema yang luar biasa, dan dalam konteks lokal juga kita kearifan lokal itu kita gali lewat moderasi, kita revitalisasi nilai-nilai kearifan lokal itu sebagai ikhtiar kita untuk merajut persatuan. Kemarin kita ada pilkada, itu saya kira ada perbedaan-perbedaan, ya, ada perbedaan preferensi, bahkan juga pilihan, itu saya kira manusiawi. Saya kira itu juga lumrah, tapi setelah itu kita kembali ke rumah besar kita, yaitu kalau di NTB, kemudian di Indonesia juga di Indonesia. Kemudian yang kedua juga kemarin juga oleh-oleh kita juga, saya dengan teman LP2M di Jepang itu juga bicara tentang bagaimana pemahaman pemikiran moderasi di kalangan mahasiswa di Indonesia maupun di Malaysia. Mereka juga sangat respect, ya, sangat antusias untuk bertanya, kenapa se-Indonesia ini bisa eksis ya. Berapa kali cobaan-cobaan dalam konteks kenegaraan itu. 45, 65, 98 itu uji coba. Ujian yang sangat berat tetapi bisa eksis. Jadi makanya kita bilang ada ideologi kita, yaitu ada tagline kita Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, Unity in Diversity. Itu yang kemudian kami ke Serbia juga bicara tentang peranan religious leader di dalam menjaga keharmonisan. Ambil di NTB ya, Lombok ini. Mereka masih mungkin di Facebooknya Pak Direktur Pak Ahmad Zainul Hamdi, Mas Inung itu bukan Mas Adib ya. Mereka masih berangan-angan Yugoslavia, Yugoslavia bangkit lagi dulu ya. Makanya protek Yugoslavia itu karena mungkin merindukan bersatunya. Kenapa Indonesia yang salah satu the big power ini ya, the big nation ini, more people ini ya, ini kemudian bisa selamat. Ternyata ada ideologi. Kalau dulu Bros Tito sebelum meninggal itu tanya apa yang mau wariskan, itu tentara. Kalau Bung Karno menjawab saya mewariskan Pancasila. Nah, jadi itu perekatnya. Makanya bayang-bayang kehancuran itu masih karena potret kelam mereka waktu pecah itu juga masih menjadi memori kolektif di antara mereka. Makanya mari Mr. Pak Dimas, bisa diganti dulu ini Pak Dimas, sama-sama sekretaris LPM menggantikan sekretaris Rumah Moderasi. Jadi itu yang menjadi, makanya mari terus kita merajut ya kebersamaan. Kemudian ini bukan hanya dalam dataran diskursif, tapi juga menjadi aksi nyata kita. Jadi kami sangat mengapresiasi dan luar biasa mendatangkan narasumber dari berbagai benua. Ini internasional serius ini. Jadi nanti kita sharing, learning, and collaborating ya. Jadi dengan narasumber, untuk bagaimana ide-ide cerdas tentang beragama di era digital ini. Karena kadang kebenaran itu bergeser ya. Sekarang apa yang sering diungkapkan di media itu kadang dianggap sebuah kebenaran. Nah, yang terakhir juga ini bagian dari kegiatan kita Road to Bali Interfaith Movement. Ya, nah, resminya mungkin nanti siang kita akan dilaunching. Jadi mudahan minggu depan juga nanti juga kami minta Rumah Moderasi untuk menginisiasi. Saya sudah mengindos Rektor IAHAN itu sebagai narasumber karena harmoni dalam perspektif moderasi, toleransi dan harmoni dalam perspektif agama-agama. Wah, selamat datang Pak Las. Mami lalu Ahmad Zainuri. Nah, Mami Las. Las jilid 2. Nah, jadi akan ada kegiatan mungkin nanti tanggal 9, tapi detailnya itu dalam rangka Road to Bali Interfaith Movement yang tindak lanjut dari Deklarasi Istiqlal yang mengambil tema 2, yaitu bagaimana merajut harmoni dan menghadapi climate change ini. Jadi itu saya sudah mengindos Rektor IAHAN dan Pak Prof. Guru besar kita Pak Prof. Suprapto dengan Mas Fahrudin Pais. Fahrudin Pais ini lagi coba dicek itu ya, sedang viral, dan nanti ba'da UAS kita ya, setelah UAS siang, paginya siang nanti itu bagian dari kita Road to Bali Interfaith Movement. Jadi inilah tugas-tugas kita ya, agak serius tugas kita ini ya. Jadi menjaga tadi keharmonisan itu, saya bilang Pak Prof Patah bahwa tugasnya Rumah Moderasi itu bagaimana menjaga kehidupan yang sakinah, mawaddah, warahmah, wan nikmah di Indonesia. Nah, jadi bukan hanya di domestik tapi di publik ya. Jadi pengalaman-pengalaman dari dulu ada Ashraf Sinclair itu Ashraf Taya. Jadi tapi iya. Saya mau ngomong begitu tapi beliau hafal. Jadi Ashraf Tahir namanya itu, saya lupa namanya karena dikirain Mas Nun Tahir, Mas Ashraf. Jadi saya lagi seminar inilah saya waktu di Serbia kemarin mengatakan bahwa tugas kami itu ya memang memberikan kegiatan seminar yang fokus pada culture awareness, kemudian promoting understanding of different religious practice and belief. Ya. Jadi ekspresi beragama ini kan beda. Terus juga ada local belief dan sebagainya. Saya kira itu akhirnya mudah-mudahan nanti seminar kita sukses ya, karena pagi ini memang 3 kegiatan. Di auditorium sudah dikapling oleh PEBI. Di sini kemudian sebelah ini Pak Harpin ya karir. Jadi inilah dinamika dan seminar kita sangat padat ya. Sukses semua Pak, semua narasumber ya. Jadi sekali lagi sangat bagus ya seminar kita, dan anak-anakku semua yang tadi tolong ikuti secara serius ya. Jadi bisa foto-foto juga terakhir, itu bagian dari cara merekat hubungan batin itu kan. Saya kira itu akhirnya mengharap ridha Allah Subhanahu wa taala dan kegiatan kita sukses. Mari kita buka dengan sama-sama membaca basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Mustafa Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa dhurriyyatihi bi barakatihim sallallahu lana al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina wa shalli ala sayyidina Muhammadin fi waqti wa shalli ala Muhammadin fil mala'il a'la ila. Allahumma jama'na jam'an mubarakan marhama wa tafarruqana min ba'di hadha tafarruqan mubarakan. Allahumma ghnina bil ilmi, zayyinna bil hilmi, akrimna bil taqwa, wa jammilna bil afiyah bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana taqabbal minna as-sami'ul alim wa tub 'alaina innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
or RMB, not RNB, but RMB. Um, uh, with the topic about religious moderation and freedom of belief in the digital age. And we know that digital things is, one of the very current matter in every aspect of our lives. And today we will have three keynote speakers from around the globe, I call it, because this is coming from several states. As for you, you're from Morocco, right? Morocco. And then we have also Professor Dr. Rahiman Afandi bin Abdul Rahim. He is from the University of Malaya. However, unfortunately, he cannot attend directly, so he will be here through the Zoom meeting. And also we have here with us Dr. Ashraf Ghanani Idrisi. Is it correct? Yes. PhD. He is from the University of Debrecen, Hungary. And now he is also active as assistant professor in one university in Budapest. And he's been in Indonesia for several months and also doing his postdoctoral in Universitas Islam International Indonesia, or UE3. And also we have Dr. Muhammad Imran Khan, PhD, from the University of Cambridge. He will also be here through the online platform or from Zoom meeting. Without further ado, I don't want to make this is too long for me. So I think I will have you for this session. You will be the first speaker. You will have like 20 to 25 minutes, I guess. And do you need me to read all of this?
What? No.
All right. All right. So it is quite surprising actually, because you're coming from scientific background, right? Political science, and then you also now talk about Islamic moderation, and we have some discussion actually, and he would like all of you to hear about his paper. Jadi beliau ingin teman-teman semua untuk mendengarkan salah satu penelitiannya, kurang lebih sangat mirip dengan Nahdlatul Wathon yang ada di Maroko. Dan tapi di Lombok, maksudnya Nahdlatul Wathon yang ada di Lombok, tapi di Maroko juga mereka punya organisasi Islam yang kurang lebih sangat mirip karakteristiknya dengan yang ada di sini, dan beliau akan publish papernya ini di jurnal bereputasi, dan itulah yang akan beliau sampaikan. So the time is yours, you can start. It is still, maybe you can just try to start first while waiting.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. What I want to speak about today is a part of a larger project which has to do with me taking interest in three particular institutions that promote their own version of Islam. And that's being in Morocco, it's called the Al-Rabita Al-Muhammadiyya Lil-Ulama. And in Indonesia, it's called Nahdlatul Ulama. And in Egypt, it's called Al-Azhar. And these are three institutions which have tried to promote their own version of Islam in a context of counter-terrorism. Like especially in Morocco, for instance, between 1994 and 2019, there were about 4 or 5 terrorist attacks. The brutal one was in 2003, in which 45 people were bombed inside a restaurant. And then in 2019, where 2 Scandinavian women were hiking in the mountains of Tubqal, and they were kidnapped and probably murdered. They didn't even find them. So the state was very much alarmed to the way in which people can easily be picked up by terrorist organizations, especially in the areas which were not economically developed. So they would target people who don't have medical care, who don't have access to the job market. A lot of women from the south were also mobilized by these groups and taken as part of their terrorist organization. So this is important to keep in mind, because whenever we speak about moderation, if you describe somebody as moderate, the implication is that there is somebody who is not moderate. There is somebody who is radical. There is somebody who is an extremist. So when you speak about moderation, you automatically create a binary between a good Muslim and a bad Muslim. You create this dichotomy between somebody who is described as moderate and somebody who is a radical. Now, the problem that I have and the problem that I want to explore in relation to religious moderation is who gets to define what moderate Islam is. And here, for me, from my background as a political scientist, so I am interested in how the state interfere in the definition of religion and religious practices, and how any narrative which diverts from that particular definition is described as the opposite of moderate. Sometimes resistance to the state also is considered as an moderate practice, a radical practice. So that is my interest, how the state infiltrates the religious discourse to produce its own others, its own enemies against itself as a moderate state. So this is the context in which I'm doing my research. Now, Morocco is special in many ways, not because I'm from Morocco, but the idea being the way in which it responded to the pressure from the West to do counterterrorism policies. It's special in many ways because what happened after 2003, which was the brutalist terrorist attack in Morocco, the state, the Moroccan king made a speech in which he announced the establishment of various Moroccan institutions, religious institutions. One of them is النهضة الرابطة المحمدية للعلماء. And this is an institution which is responsible for the management of what they call the religious field. The religious field being anything which is published in Morocco, anything which is taught in Morocco, anything which is related to the religious domain is filtered throughout this institution. Now, first thing Morocco did after 2003 is to, can you move to the next slide? First thing it did was to define its own version of Islam. And if you look at the geographic location of Morocco, it is located in the north. It is 15 kilometers away from Europe. It has been part of Europe during the time of Al-Andalus, but there are also Amazigh people, indigenous groups, before the coming of the Arabs and their conversion to Islam. And so there were a lot of scholars who were not only Arabs, but they were also Amazigh, which are the indigenous groups of the people, of the land. So what they did was, Morocco takes the Maliki madhab as its own foundation. So Morocco is Maliki, Ash'ari, and Sufi. And that's what defines Moroccan Islam, is these three elements. So the Maliki Ash'ari tradition, of course, it's a tradition of jurisprudence. And the Sufi tradition is the tradition that Morocco used to build its own mystical way. And the way in which it connects its version of Islam with many Sufi orders all over the African region, but also all over Europe. Because part of promoting your version of Islam is trying to establish international connection, so you can solidify that version of Islam at a global level, because it doesn't only operate at the inside. And that's one of the things that differentiates it, for instance, from not only Islam in the Middle East, but also from the way in which Nahdat al-Ulama positions itself vis-a-vis, like, for instance, Malaysia or the Middle East. But I will speak about this a little more. Okay. This is the office of the, next slide. This is the gates of the Rabita al-Muhammadiyya lil-Ulama, the entrance gate. And by the way, if you when you say Moroccan Islam, it directly means wasatiyya in Morocco. In Morocco, they don't use the term wasatiyya or religious moderation. For them, Moroccan Islam already means that you are a moderate, that you are a wasati. That's one of the way in which they put the idea in people's mind that this is the official and accepted version of Islam in Morocco. So what happened is that Morocco uses, I said Maliki, Ash'ari. Maliki because it emphasizes the text and the context. Ash'ari because what does that mean? The text and the context being the fact that if you're going to interpret anything religious, related to the religious field, it has to account for the conditions of al-wahy and understand that the history of the Quran is a teleological history in the sense that certain things that were interpreted in the past now maybe they need to be reinterpreted in light of the global development. So the Maliki jurisprudence give you that space in which you can keep doing ijtihad. The thing is Ash'ari. Ash'ari in the sense that Moroccan Islam uses reason and rationality in terms of how it interprets the Quran. There are certain things which Morocco calls الثوابت الدينية, which are ثوابت عقدية, which are religious constants, things that do not change, right? And this has to do, for instance, with the status of the Quran as the word of God, idea that the Prophet received wahi. These are things that nobody can discuss. The idea of inheritance, for instance, nobody can call for the banishing of this law. There are certain things which do not change, but there are other things which have been used in Islam politically. And Morocco takes the Ash'ari madhab, so it can take give and take with these things and redefine them in terms of how modern state developments are happening. Third element, which is I think the most important one, is the Sufi element. And the Sufi in Morocco, there are a lot of orders. But the most important now are Al-Jazuliya, Al-Butchishia, and Al-Tijaniya. Why? Al-Butchishia, for instance, is by the way, all of these three are built upon the idea that there is a master and disciple relationship in any way of transmitting knowledge. So built into the idea of these Sufi orders is the idea of religious authority. And this is really important, specifically coming from a political science perspective, because it means that you listen to the king or to that religious authority in the field, whatever they say, because you are a disciple and you need to have that relationship with the master of what they call in Arabic al-waqar, which means respect. You hold somebody in respect to the point of whatever they say becomes a law in your life. So this is very much built into how the Sufi orders are built in Morocco. Second thing which is important, because of this element of waqar between the master and the disciple, you need to think about what happened when the disciples start to criticize the policies of the master. Remember, because one of the things that you need to keep in mind, Morocco is a monarchy, right? So we have a king. And the king in Morocco is not only a political authority, he's also a religious authority. He is also Amir al-Mu'minin, the commander of the faithful. He is also the representative of, he claims lineage, like his ancestors come from the grandson of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Ali. So he claims prophetic lineage. So for us in Morocco, the king does not only represent a political authority like a prime minister or a president. No, he is also a religious authority, and he is the ultimate and final religious authority in Morocco. So he gets to interfere in which in how the religious field is structured in Morocco and how it promotes in its identity. And this is really tricky because anyone or any institutions which diverge definition of Islam, which criticized the definition of Islam, is seen not only as criticizing the king as a political authority, but also you are criticizing the religion. So this is the tricky part that they do. When you criticize Moroccan Islam, you're not only criticizing a version of Islam promoted by the state, you're criticizing Islam itself. That's what they say. And this is a way to open up, for instance, arbitrary imprisonment. Throwing you in prison for no reason, but putting it under the banner that you're criticizing the religion and you, what they say, you do قلة الحياة, public shame to the religion. So this is exactly what I am interested in. The way in which the state uses its own definition of a religious discourse, suppress resistance and oppression, and to suppress the diversity of thought in their religious field. Okay. Okay. So the religious institutions and institutionalization in Morocco happen in two ways. We have what we call coercive or repressive measures, and we have lenient and humanistic measures. The first one pertains to the idea that directly after the terrorist attacks, what Morocco did was use what they call military state apparatus. Use the military, the police, use the law, use various political policies to start to do its own filtration of the Moroccan society. And this has led to, for instance, a lot of people being thrown in prison for no reason at all but criticizing the state. A lot of people who, for instance, does not belong to the Maliki madhab, but they are Hanafi or they are Shafi'i, they were also thrown in the prison for the simple fact that they criticized the way in which the Morocco started to infiltrate the Maliki madhab and define it in its own way. But this was a response to the very shock, because what happened, if you know, for instance, after 2011, the Arab Spring have swept all over the region, from Algeria up until Egypt. All the region were in revolutions and they were in toil, but Morocco didn't have that kind of turmoil. Why? Because it infiltrated the religious field to the point where it controlled even how people react to state policy. It was so effective and people were so afraid that, because we have seen what happened in the 80s in Morocco, it was the same thing with the Marxist unions. When they wanted to revolutionize against the monarchy, most of them disappeared. Some people were put in prison 30, 40 years. And they just came out after the son of the king take the throne. So there is a lot of arbitrary imprisonment in that era. Now, after Morocco cleaned the field from what it claimed to be terrorist organizations, it switches in its policy towards what we would call a lenient and more soft approaches. So the first thing it did was to create all of these religious institutions. So now Morocco trained ulama to go to Europe. They trained ai who give khutbahs in the mosque. Morocco has a unified khutbah in all mosques every Friday, so that not some khatib can say something that goes against the state. Actually, the khutbah come from the Ministry of Religious Affairs, so they control that part as well. They also produce, for instance, one of the things that I'm starting to have a little bit of second thought about was now Morocco is pushing toward more a humanistic and human rights approach when it comes to the religious field, right? But one of the things that they don't do, for instance, women are included in these institutions only as murshidat, but they cannot be mufassirat, for instance. Women cannot write their own tafsir of the Quran from a gender-friendly, from a woman perspective. It's not taken as an authority in Morocco, but they are murshidat. And what does murshidat mean? Morocco noticed that a lot of these people who were joining terrorist groups, they were also from Europe. A lot of Moroccans who were rich already and living well, but they were in Europe and living a really good life, but they still choose to go and join these terrorist terroristic groups and fight against what they see as a deviant version of Islam. So what Morocco did, they created this group called Morshideen and Morshidat. So they sent these women to mosques in Europe and in the United States, and they try to do the da'wah in there, but in a very gender-friendly, Sufi, Maliki way, in a very way that attracts people to the faith without, with the emphasis that Moroccan Islam is a very distinct and different form of Islam, which does not lend itself to terrorist groups. So they created this space in which they show that women, yes, women are also part of the religious discourse, but they are really not, because all these Morshidat do is repeat what men tell them when they get the training. So there is no sense of agency when it comes to how they deal with the tradition and how they deal with the Quran themselves. Okay. Next slide, please. Last one. I will stop shortly. This is the heart of my project, right? I will repeat again just for the sake of benefit. What I'm trying to do is to see how the state uses the religious discourse to solidify its political power. And Morocco has been able to do this because, as I said again, the king is not only a political authority, as for instance in England or in the Netherlands. No, the king is also a religious authority. So resistance to the state is framed as being a criticism of the deen, of religion, which is not, because nobody has the authority to tell you what religion is. Religion exists, and people read it and put their own version of it. Like Morocco called its form of Islam, Moroccan Islam. But the way in which this is controlled is that when you criticize the state, you're criticizing the religion, and that leads to you disappearing in some prison, in some Sahara or something. So a lot of arbitrary imprisonment. So this happened through three strategies. So far, this is what I am trying, I'm reaching towards the conclusion. So the king being the commander of the faithful and being political authority controlled is the ultimate form of authority in Morocco. Second thing, the resistance is not like, if you look at any democracy, for instance, you would have opposition to the leading parties. And the role of the opposition is what? The role of the opposition is to point to the gaps in the policies presented by the ruling party. And that's what makes a healthy democratic society. Now, Morocco moved from being a monarchy to a constitutional monarchy. And constitutional in the sense is that it opens the field to many political parties to take the lead. But three things that in Morocco are not touched. The Ministry of Religious Affairs, the minister is appointed by the king. You cannot vote for him. Ministry of Foreign Policy, also the minister is chosen by the king. And anything which relates to the territorial integrity of Morocco is also dealt with by the king. So three institutions which solidify the power of the king are not open for voting. So they're not a part of that democratic system. So this is the way in which Morocco kind of uses its own version of Islam to usurp resistant voices in the Moroccan discourse. A last thing which is very important here, the way in which Morocco uses the media, uses the digital apparatuses to promote its own version of Islam. So one of the things that they do now, you can get training as an alim just online. You can become a murshid or a murshida just online. You don't have even to attend. You can also, every Friday, you can follow the khutbah. For instance, people who live in areas in which they don't have mosques, right? You can now follow the khutbah of al-Jumu'ah and the prayer just online. They justify it based on the Maliki madhab, which opens that space that if you live in a Christian or non-Muslim society in which you don't have access to mosques, you can do the khutbah online with the sheikh praying in Morocco and you praying from your, like, in front of your laptop. Now it looks very simple, But this is one of the ways in which Morocco promotes its own version of moderation, that we are a faith, we are a Moroccan Islam which keeps evolving, which involves technology from different fields, which open a space for other faiths to be included. For instance, I told you the king is the commander of the faithful, right? So he is Amir al-Mu'minin. Al-Mu'minin here doesn't mean Muslimin. He is the Amir of the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews. And that was one of the ways in which Morocco normalized relationships with Israel, for instance. They said that the Moroccan, in the 16th and 17th century, they has a huge population of Jewish people. Actually, 250,000 Jewish people who were kicked out of Spain came and lived in Morocco. And they were always close to the King Palace. They were always doctors and diplomats and ambassadors. They infiltrated the monarchy system. So one of the ways in which Morocco justifies its relationship with Israel, despite the fact that Israeli people are committing genocide now in Palestine, is to use Moroccan Islam as well. Because they say that the king is the commander of the faithful, and Jewish people are also faithful because they are people of the book. And the Quran, the Christians and the Jews are described as the people of the book, people who also received holy books, but they were adulterated, they changed over time. So that's one of the ways in which Moroccan Islam opened that space to include people from different traditions and build its own version of its Moroccan Islam, a moderate form of Islam. So to sum up, this is just the third of my project. The second one will be for me to look at how Nahdat al-Ulama infiltrates the religious discourse in different ways, of course. And then the third part is to look at how Al-Azhar does the same thing. Because you remember, Azhar is Shafi'i, Morocco is Maliki. It's a different understanding of how they infiltrate the religious field. And then I hope I can share with you my paper when it came out and you can benefit from it. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please give applause to Dr. Ashraf. Such a very interesting discussion, right? I never thought that to normalize the tie between Morocco and Israel is also part of promoting the moderation there. This is something that is very surprising actually for me, even for me, and I think that everybody will also be surprised for that reason. Perlu diterjemahin nggak? Oh, perlu. Can I do a bit translation? I need to do some translation a bit. Okay. Menarik banget sebenarnya yang disampaikan. Jadi kebetulan tadi cek oh ya. Tadi beliau menyampaikan bahwa ada beberapa poin yang sangat penting. Jadi awal mula moderasi beragama di Morocco itu diperkenalkan dikarenakan adanya serangan terorisme sekitar 4-5 serangan sebelum tahun 2003 dan yang paling banyak korbannya itu pada tahun 2003. Sehingga negara itu menjadi sangat khawatir dengan kehadiran teroris ini, khususnya karena mereka hadir itu di area-area di mana masyarakatnya itu kurang mampu atau tidak berkembang secara perekonomian. Mereka tidak punya akses kepada kesehatan, tidak punya akses kepada pekerjaan, sehingga mereka dijadikan sebagai bagian pejuang dari terorisme itu sendiri. Kemudian sejak saat itu moderasi beragama ini mulai diperkenalkan, dan yang memperkenalkan itu adalah raja itu sendiri. Makanya tadi disebutkan bahwa di Morocco istilahnya diberikan dengan istilah Amirul Mukminin. Jadi pemimpin tidak hanya bagi agama Islam tapi juga bagi agama-agama yang lain juga. Tetapi tadi ada satu pertanyaan dari Dr. Ashraf yang sangat penting untuk di-highlight adalah ketika kita berbicara tentang moderat, berarti di situ kita sedang memberikan identitas yang lain kepada yang tidak moderat. Apakah yang tidak moderat ini kemudian itulah yang kita sebut dengan radikal. Maka terjadi binari katanya tadi ya, jadi terjadi dua penafsiran yang berbeda di sini. Nah, setelah kejadian terorisme tahun 2003, Raja Maroko kemudian membuat institusi keagamaan yang dikontrol secara sepenuhnya di Maroko, sehingga apapun yang berkaitan dengan keagamaan itu akan difilter lewat institusi ini. Gerakan pertamanya itu dengan melakukan gerakan militer, sehingga pada saat itu terjadi penangkapan besar-besaran atau tadi yang disebut dengan arbitrary arbitrary imprisonment, artinya orang-orang itu dipenjara ketika justru mereka menganut aliran yang lain, meskipun seperti Hanafi atau Syafi'i mereka juga dipenjara gitu. Kemudian setelah gerakan yang pertama tadi baru masuk ke gerakan yang kedua, gerakannya itu lebih lebih halus, tetapi gerakan ini kemudian sepenuhnya itu di-leading oleh raja dan melalui Kementerian Agama mereka. Bahkan untuk orang yang akan khutbah di masjid pun itu teks khutbahnya itu ditentukan oleh diberikan oleh dari seperti di Malaysia seperti itu. Tetapi yang paling penting tadi saya langsung ke kesimpulan aja karena ini cukup panjang. Yang menjadi diskursus dari penelitian Dr. Ashraf adalah bagaimana pengaruh interpretasi agama itu digunakan oleh Raja Maroko di Maroko untuk memperkuat kekuatan politiknya dan mempengaruhi kehidupan masyarakat yang ada di sana. Sehingga ketika masyarakat mengkritisi raja, maka artinya mereka juga mengkritisi agamanya. Dan itu tidak diperbolehkan sehingga bisa bisa dipenjara. Dan kemudian istilah daripada moderasi beragama ini tadi dianggap overlapping oleh Dr. Ashraf karena dianggap juga termasuk menormalisasi hubungan antara Maroko dengan Israel. Karena dianggap bahwa raja di Maroko tidak hanya menjadi pemimpin bagi agama Islam tapi juga bagi agama yang lainnya, dan di Maroko sendiri itu ada banyak orang-orang Yahudi juga gitu. Sehingga inilah alasan kenapa Maroko menormalisasi bahkan ketika Israel sudah terbukti untuk melakukan genosida. Kurang lebih begitu kesimpulannya. I already have the conclusion. Should we go, harus kita secara online-nya sekarang? I think I will try to connect with our keynote speaker. We have here Dr. M. Imran Khan. Dr. Imran, are you here with us? Waalaikumsalam. All right, can you please wait a second? We try to connect you to the slide. Really?
France. How are you? Very pleased.
This will be a family. Yes. Have time. Morocco, we have a very strong Islamic influence, and in Indonesia, let's see what we got. So I'm still waiting for Professor. Where is it? Wait. Professor Rahimin, but he is not here with us yet. I think that we can directly proceed to the Q&A, but maybe before that I need to make some conclusion to the audience because not all of them are speaking English. So give me some moment for that, Doctor. So and then after that we can go through the Q&A session. Jadi kalau dari apa yang sudah disampaikan oleh Dr. Imran tadi, ada beberapa kesimpulan yang kita bisa highlight. Kalau tadi dari perspektif Maroko kita melihat bagaimana pengaruh Islam itu sangat kuat melalui raja. Sedangkan kalau di UK atau di Inggris, kita bisa mengetahui bahwa kasus moderasi ini menjadi penting dikarenakan banyaknya peristiwa anti-Islam yang terjadi. Jadi kurang lebih tadi yang disampaikan, Indonesia dan Inggris itu sama-sama menghadapi dampak daripada terorisme. Kalau di UK, dampaknya terjadinya anti-Islam kepada masyarakat Muslim yang merupakan minoritas. Kemudian kalau di Indonesia sendiri terjadinya anti-Islam dan juga mulai tersebarnya moderasi. Tetapi di UK dampaknya lebih strong karena sudah terjadi serangan secara fisik, emosional, bahkan ada beberapa influence dan juga bahkan parlemen mereka juga mendistribusikan diskriminasi kepada orang-orang Muslim itu sendiri. Kemudian di Inggris kepemimpinan Muslim itu pada masa ketika terjadi serangan diskriminasi kepada masyarakat Muslim, mereka melakukan mengutuk aksi-aksi terorisme secara terang-terangan untuk menunjukkan bahwa sesungguhnya terorisme itu bukan berasal dari Islam dan menjelaskan bahwa sebenarnya individu yang bertanggung jawab mewakili komunitas Muslim itu sebenarnya bukanlah masyarakat Muslim. Jadi perilaku terorisme itu bukanlah perilaku Muslim. Pada masa itu ini membantu eskalasi kekerasan yang sangat tinggi setelah tahun 2002. Tetapi Islamofobia itu masih tetap tersebar sehingga kemudian konsep moderasi ini menjadi dimasukkan tetapi ditundukkan melalui nilai-nilai liberalisme di Barat. Jadi pendekatannya menggunakan istilah liberalisme ya. Jadi kebebasan bagi setiap orang untuk mengekspresikan diri dan juga agamanya. Karena serangannya sudah sangat masif ya. Ada misalnya perempuan yang pakai jilbab ditarik jilbabnya, ada juga yang mengalami kekerasan fisik bahkan di tempat-tempat publik, di perpustakaan, di pasar dan sebagainya. Hingga saat ini, nah permasalahannya adalah Inggris masih belum memiliki definisi resmi tentang apa itu Islamofobia. Tadi kebetulan Dr. Imran juga mengkritisi sebenarnya moderasi itu apa sih gitu. Kemudian kalau misalnya kita menggunakan istilah liberalisme atau kebebasan itu kira-kira itu bisa lebih tepat atau enggak kalau dia diterapkannya itu di UK atau di Inggris. Karena kalau mau menerapkan moderat sepertinya sulit kalau untuk di sana. Kemudian istilah Islamofobia ini diusulkan oleh beberapa pihak dengan menggunakan istilah anti-Muslim racism karena benar-benar yang paling banyak menerima dampaknya itu adalah masyarakat Muslim itu sendiri. Kemudian saat ini terdapat adanya pendekatan-pendekatan inklusif di UK yang baru-baru ini saja kan tahun 2023 kemarin terjadi serangan di beberapa kota ya di London pada saat itu dikarenakan dianggap bahwa pelakunya juga adalah orang Muslim gitu, orang Islam. Jadi sepertinya itu sangat besar ketika berkaitan dengan agama Islam itu sendiri. Jadi ada dua kontras yang sangat berbeda. We have a very two different situations. Alright, Dr. Imran, I have already make my conclusion. Professor Rahimin haven't here with us yet, so maybe we can going through our Q&A session. Kita sekarang bisa masuk ke sesi tanya jawab. Kalau ada yang mau bertanya, silahkan angkat tangan. Tetapi ada beberapa persyaratan untuk pertanyaan. We have several requirements for the questions. You need to provide your question direct and don't forget to mention your identity and institution. Jadi pertanyaannya harus secara langsung, tidak perlu panjang-panjang lebar dan berbelit-belit ya. Langsung pertanyaannya apa. And setiap satu orang itu satu pertanyaan. Kita akan lihat untuk manajemen waktu pertanyaannya. Kira-kira kalau cukup 2-3 pertanyaan kita akomodir, tapi kalau tidak cukup maka kita stop, mungkin hanya sebatas 3 pertanyaan saja. Silakan angkat tangan yang bertanya. Alright, Dr. Ahmad, maybe you need to have question as well. Kita punya 3 pertanyaan. We have 3 questions here. Kita mulai dari yang paling belakang, 1, 2, dan 3 ya. Ya, yang paling belakang.
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the first, my name is Lalu Asmaradani Alim. My class KPID. Langsung saja untuk pertanyaannya. My question is, how has the rise of social media and digital communication impacted the spread of Islamic teaching and religious authority in Morocco? Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, before I ask my question, let me introduce myself. My name is Yuna Aulia from KPIC. Okay, directly. And the question is, as you said before, that Morocco used a monarchy system and the king adheres to Islam. Well, I happen to have read in one of the news on Google that in Morocco is not allowed to spread the teachings of religions other than Islam. Is that true? And what is the reason? And from your opinion, if there are religious problems between Islam and other religions, how does the king resolve the problem? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, my name is Ratunisa. Basically, my question is, how can the religious moderation strategy in Morocco be applied to overcome the challenges of extremists and terrorists in the digital era, especially in Indonesia? Okay. Understand, Mr.? Yeah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for moderator. And thank you very much for presenting. Very good. My question, how is the practice and strategy of religious moderation in university based on Mr. Imran and Mr. Ashraf experience? Terima kasih. Thank you. In Morocco. Thank you.
All right, so most of the question come to Dr. Ashraf, but maybe later we can also have some statement from Dr. Imran as well. You want to directly answer? Should I repeat the questions?
No,
No need to? All right.
fine. Okay. Okay, thank you all for your questions. The first question about social media and respect of Islamic teachings, right? Um, I think it's a good question, right? But the focus of your question shouldn't be on respect. It should be on how Islam is used by the state through social media to promote its own version of Islam. Because to measure the respect, it's something beyond being quantifiable. You cannot really do that to measure respect. But what you can measure is how the state is expanding its apparatus, is expanding its methods of spreading its own version of Islam through social media. And the ways in which Morocco do that, for instance, as I mentioned about the online khutbah, the publication of books, actually doing conferences like this, online conferences, the sending murshidat and murshidin even to the university to infiltrate Marxist and Leninist groups and promotes their own version of Islam to the university itself. So it's not a question of respect or not respect, it's a question of how the state imposes its own version of Islam through social media. That's a more interesting question. Okay. Second one is about how does Morocco deals with if there is a problem between Muslim and Christians and so on. Well, unfortunately in Morocco we don't have that problem because the majority is Muslim. No, it's not a problem in Morocco. We have Moroccan Jews, but Moroccan Jews are very much close to the palace and to the king, and they are not really a problem. Actually, Morocco uses them to solidify its relationship with Israel. So it's not really a problem for us to have a religious diversity because the intellectual and the religious landscape in Morocco is very much Islamic. So it doesn't, we don't have that problem. I mean, how about your question on the use of Moroccan religious moderation in Indonesia? I don't really think it will work because of the same reason. Because here you have more than 300 ethnic minorities, languages, and you have six religions, right? You have your own unique version of living together. And I don't think that the Moroccan policy would work here. Actually, it would be very authoritarian. You would be a despot if you did that here because of the diversity that you have here in Indonesia and the fact that you manage to live together for so long and in peaceful and tolerant ways. It speaks of your version of Islam and how you understand the religious diversity here in the country. So I don't think it will work at all. For the last question about the university. Religious moderation in the university is not really discussed as a form of moderation because in Moroccan universities we have a lot of student unions, right? 70% of the unions in Moroccan universities are Marxist, Leninist, very revolutionary student unions, but they are Muslim. You understand? There is no, for them, there isn't that the fact that you are Marxist, you are an atheist. It doesn't exist. You can be a revolutionary and you are a Muslim. In fact, they think that being a Muslim is being revolutionary. It's going against injustice. That's how they define it. But these groups for the state are not moderate because these groups are always against state policies which try to control how the university teaches, what is the curriculum, how does it manage its exams and so on. So they are always against that. So they promote free thinking in Islam, but the state sees them as being not moderate. In the other 30% of the student unions are Islamic unions, but they are Islamic unions that would fall on the Hanbali madhab. They're extremists in their thinking. Like, for instance, if they're speaking with women, they would not look at her. They take Islam, they don't look at the spirit of Islam, they look at the small details which actually pushes people away from the religion. And that's a huge problem for them because they never managed to get a voice in the Moroccan university landscape. The police are always arresting them, crushing them. And that's a big problem for them in Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Ashraf. It's very interesting. And I would like to invite Dr. Imran, I think there's also one question for you from the last question. What is the moderation practices in the university according to your experience? We cannot hear.
What did you experience in the
So
experience in the university?
yeah, the question is how is the practice of moderation in the university at the UK according to your experience?
Okay.
session. It is very interesting discussion so far. I might would like some addressing some conclusion maybe. We can see that we have a very different practices in moderation, particularly even though that we might not finally find what is the definition of moderation, how to implement it, whether if every country have their own interpretation and how to apply it in each countries. At least we have three perspectives now. We know from the UK how anti-Islam is one of the big matters, and whether to promote moderate is a right or not, whether liberalism is the only solution, and also in Morocco, whether if democracy should be applied there. And now in Indonesia, we still don't know yet. We can see later on, maybe on another occasion and different discussion, maybe some another research. Kita bisa melihat bahwa ada tiga perbedaan yang bisa kita highlight dari konferensi kita hari ini. Kita bisa melihat bagaimana di Inggris apakah moderasi itu diperlukan atau justru cukup dengan liberalisasi. Kemudian kita bisa melihat bahwa di Maroko sendiri apakah demokrasi perlu diterapkan, moderasi itu sebenarnya apa, dan di Indonesia sendiri kita pada posisi yang seperti apa di dalam mendefinisikan moderasi. Pada akhirnya kita semua sepakat bahwa istilah moderasi sendiri pun perlu kita pertanyakan, karena tadi masing-masing narasumber mempertanyakan apa sih sebenarnya istilah moderasi itu, karena pada akhirnya kita juga akan memberikan label pada yang lain, bagaimana dengan yang tidak moderat, apakah kita sebut mereka dengan radikal atau kita sebut mereka dengan liberal atau istilah-istilah yang lainnya. So this is a very interesting discussion so far, and thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Ashraf and also Dr. Imran. I would like to send all of our love from here, even though that you are not here. So let's meet each other again, inshallah, in another time and another discussion. Hope we maybe later on doing some joint research. Yeah, we hope so. And maybe we can please you come here, Dr. Imran. And thank you so much. Terima kasih untuk partisipasi semuanya. Kita akhiri untuk kegiatan kita hari ini. Sekarang kita akan pindah ke parallel session. We now move to the parallel session for the attendance. Bagi yang lainnya nanti bisa hadir untuk parallel session di gedung di Fakultas Syariah, Tarbiyah, dan juga di sini dan juga di gedung Fakultas Dakwah sendiri, dan itu topik-topiknya juga sangat menarik. Dan bagi yang sudah bertanya tadi mendapatkan, ya, silahkan maju ke depan sekaligus dapat sesi foto, bonus foto. They want to take a picture with you for those who have the questions. Thank you, Dr. Imran. Yang sudah bertanya tadi, biarkan. Silahkan maju sekaligus difoto sama Dr. Ashraf. Di mana? Di atas aja biar ini. Ya, on the stage. Ya, biarkan Dr. Ashraf yang ngasih. Ayo naik bang, naik. So. Mana tadi lagi satu yang udah nanya, yang cowok udah keluar. Oh, berarti buat saya goodie bag-nya ini. Tadi ada yang kabur. Tolong bantuannya tim dokumentasi. Oke, selanjutnya next. Oh iya, oke. Nggak pede. Oke, next. Pak Dr. Ahmad. We need to take a picture together again. Lagi ya, satu foto ya. One more. Maybe move to the middle. This is our, yeah, salam moderasi we call it. Terima kasih. Thank you so much everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.